Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Positivity. We are here not only joined by Ishbel, but Ishbel, who else have you got with you for this episode?
I just wanted you to meet him right at the beginning. Here he is. This is Sparky.
Hi Sparky.
And my helper Mimi, who's going to take him away again so he can go back to sleep because he was a bit sleepy.
Oh.
Who's also, Mimi is very kindly lending me her bedroom for this as well, so thank you.
So has Sparky been keeping positive? Has Sparky been keeping positive throughout lockdown?
He's very positive. He is. He's he's always got a positive attitude. He's a bit like me. He's like mindlessly optimistic about everything.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. That's good. I think everybody, I mean, I'm a dog person as well, and there's been times in lockdown where I've just needed to turn to my dog and just, you know, they're there and they just make me smile.
It's really true. They make a big difference. I think when you're out on a walk and you just see them loving the moment so much, it's a good example to follow. I like that as well, though. We have both. Yes. They also have a good example because the whole kind of just being very chill.
Yeah, exactly, which people should learn from. And where is lockdown for you? Whereabouts in the UK are you?
I am in a little village called Wheathampstead.
And whereabouts is that?
It's in Hertfordshire.
Okay, yes. So you're
not my natural habitat. I'm from up north, but this is where I am now. This is where I am these days.
Yeah, so you have been nominated by the lovely Jane, who says that you're the most positive person in her life. So we're really excited.
How sweet is that? She's lovely. That's so kind.
Yeah, so we're really excited to hear about what you've been up to, and if you've got any tips and ideas for everybody today, that would be great. But first things first, obviously, which we all need. Have you got a cuppa to hand?
Very important. I love that this is part of it. Here is my cup of tea. Yes.
Oh, with a lovely mug as well. And is it a standard English breakfast tea, or have you got any?
It's the king of teas. It's Yorkshire tea.
Yes, definitely the most popular one that we've had on, actually.
Because it's the best, right? It's just the greatest tea there is. I really liked it when you had your tea shades thing. Anything in that white, very milky area makes me quite unhappy. It's got to be good and powerful, strong, dark Yorkshire tea.
Yes, exactly. You make the wrong tea, then, dearie me. You're not British if you don't like a good cuppa. So, yeah.
I used to live in the south of France actually, and I used to take it with me because you can't get if you're not over abroad, you've got to take it with you, otherwise it's not the same.
Yeah, I think that's what lots of people do, don't they, when they go abroad?
Oh, no,
true Brits. Oh, that's great. So, in terms of what you do for work and how it's been impacted by the wonderful world of Corona, it would be great to hear a little bit more about what you do.
Well, so I work in a school, in a primary school. I'm actually the librarian, and it obviously has been really different. And unlike lots of people, it hasn't been. We haven't been working from home. We've been open the whole time. So from when schools closed, theoretically, everything massively changed for us. We all were sent home, but we were also told, well, you're going to be on a rota, you'll be coming in, because what we were doing obviously was staying open in the holidays and providing childcare to key worker children and vulnerable children to make sure that those children who needed us still had somewhere to be. So, and actually my school, because there would have been wraparound care, we went from being open sort of 10 to 9 till 3:20 to being open from 8 till 5 to make sure that there really was that place to be those children that needed it. And obviously it was a lot fewer children. We had to follow all of the protocols. There was a lot of government advice to consider about how everything was done. And as you can imagine, asking small children to stay 2 meters away from each other, trying to stay 2 meters away from small children, it's not. No. And interestingly, I saw a thing really recently that said there was a government briefing where they've now said that they never said that, which you know, we always knew in the schools that it has never been possible, and you know, the children obviously can't 100% follow it, and we can't 100% follow it. You can't help someone with work when you're 2 meters away, it's too far. But it's interesting to see that they're now turning around and saying, oh no, we didn't ever ask you to do that, because they totally did. But anyway, so that happened. So we were at home, I was homeschooling my children, plus doing this rota stuff. And then more recently, obviously schools started to reopen more generally. So we took back year 1 reception and the year 6, which includes, so my eldest is a year 6 and my daughter's been coming in with me since that happened, because I'm now back full time, because before the rota we were there from time to time, but now we're there on our normal schedules, kind of, although we're still open more than we were before.
Yes, yeah. And I imagine being in schools, it's there, but for you personally, that would have had a massive impact on homeschooling your own children and so on. How did you get that balance of work and home life?
Well, this is where, when I was saying before about being mindlessly optimistic, that is a perfect example. So homeschooling, when I first found out I was going to have to do that, I was like, I'm gonna love this, I'm gonna be amazing, I can't wait, because I've worked in education for a long time, I love it. I thought I was going to be brilliant at homeschooling my children, and actually that is not the case. The main thing that all my experience taught me is that I should not be teaching my own children. All the things that I can do right when I'm with other people's children, I got so wrong with my own, and they did not like me being their teacher.
That's what I was going to say. Your children agree with you.
So actually, I mean, it was really, I'm obviously being silly, but there were things about it that were lovely. We had lots of fun. We made up science experiments, and and I was very lucky. They were so good. They were really they just got on with things. But I was very happy when we switched from, when we first closed, the school were giving us work and I was kind of trying to teach them. And then when Oak Academy opened and they had actual online lessons, that was a big shift for us, because then I could go back to just being mummy and cheerleading, whereas when I was trying to be the teacher, I was a horrible homeschool teacher. That's also, there's a really positive side to that, because it was always a secret dream of mine to homeschool the children and move around the world. So, do that thing where you take your children with you, and because you can homeschool, you get to travel the world. My husband thinks this dream is total nonsense and it was never going to happen. But now I feel better about the fact it was never going to happen, because actually I suck at homeschooling. So yay.
And actually you might have always thought, what if? But actually now
Exactly. So now I can be like, oh no, phew, dodged a bullet there. Not to mention, who knows what terrible stuff could have happened if I'd been allowed to have my way and travel the world with 2 small children. I mean, it's just, that's crazy, isn't it?
Are they happy about the fact that they're not traveling the world? Are they
I think so, because that's not their dream at all. They love where they are. They love being around their friends. They're really happy here. And I think they loved being at home and having Daddy was here a lot more, which is really nice. And but actually they were so thrilled when they got to go back in and see a bit more of their friends, because I think that's the thing for children, it's been really difficult being separated. So it was lovely to see how happy that made them when they went back.
Yes, and then it keeps that balance. Wow, it's been a challenge for everyone, but family children, how everyone's done it, and you're still smiling. It's great to see. And then it'll be the summer holidays soon.
I can't wait. I love the summer holidays. The thing is, I mean, for me, lockdown, like I say, mindlessly optimistic. I'm always really excited about change, I think, and I'm always like, yay, new, exciting, this will be good. And then actually, I also think it's really important, if you're going to be mindlessly optimistic, that, because clearly you're going to get stuff really wrong, and it's going to, things are going to go wrong. But I'm a big believer in finding the silver lining.
Yes.
So whatever happens, however things might go wrong, I feel like there's always a way that you can be like, but this is good because. So I specialize in that.
That's general, isn't it? So many people, it's been stressful, and I'm quite far removed from the front line and so on, that actually I've loved slowing down, and I don't think I'd have ever done this without being forced to. So
I know,
silver lining.
And so many people, so the puppy at the beginning, lots of people, we actually agreed to do that before lockdown, but a lot of people, that's been a thing that, suddenly people have space for that kind of thing in their life that maybe they'd always wanted to do but actually couldn't because they're not at home. And that beginning bit with the puppy, you really need to be there. So there's loads of, I think there's always positives you can find in a situation. Sometimes you just have to look a bit harder. But I saw a really funny thing actually on that whole homeschooling lockdown comparison, finding the silver lining. Someone was joking on a social media thing about I'm never going to be scared of the summer holidays again, because 6 weeks is nothing compared to lockdown.
Oh, that's so true. And how, so summer holidays approaching, and obviously outside of life, how have you been keeping sane? What activities have you been doing, both for yourself and as well as for the whole family as well, that you could potentially take into those
Well, we were always we're very lucky. We live in the countryside, and we had a dog already before we got the puppy, so we were always going out into the countryside anyway, and that's a big thing that luckily was still possible in lockdown. I think that saved us quite a lot. So we, you know, we're lucky we live near woodland, and we kind of go there. You know, well, obviously we go every day outside because of the but for me personally, the bits that I've had more time for, my garden, I really, really like gardening, so that's been really lovely. Because actually normally what happens is every year the garden looks lovely, but I'm always like, but there's all that bit there that I haven't weeded, and there's this thing here that's in the wrong place, and just, I don't know, I always never kind of properly enjoyed it. Whereas actually being here so much more and doing a bit more of the gardening and just being like, oh no, actually look at it, it's amazing, I love it. So that's been lovely.
I think same for you, but you know, when there's things like gardening, you're always thinking about rushing off to the next thing, which is probably what stops the enjoyment. It's not actually the activity of doing it, but it's the time allowed for it.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it. I think that's exactly the point, is that, so what was going wrong? Because my garden doesn't look that different just because I've been at home and doing a bit more of it. It looks the same as it looks every year, but I feel differently about it because I'm not guilting myself about not having done enough. Yeah. And I think that's a really good thing for positivity as well, is that you have to choose how you look at things. And if you can choose to kind of focus on the positives and focus on the things that are going well, like, you know, I let myself this year just be like, I love the garden, it's amazing. Because also I think probably, like a lot of us, when we're all in this weird situation that everybody's been in, you also think a lot about how lucky you are, you know, in different ways. And so for me, the fact we even have a garden, well, that's really lucky, isn't it? Because if you're stuck in your house, for the kids, having that place that they can play and all the rest of it, so suddenly that whole kind of idea of gratitude was really important as well. So that's, I guess that's part of it too.
So true. And actually it's funny that you've mentioned gardening, because I've never done gardening before, and this afternoon, just before talking to you, I've actually been out planting some things, and it's not something I've just ignored. And I don't know.
Apparently it has like amazing kind of chemical, just putting your hands in soil releases chemicals that make you feel good. It's amazing. And I mean, I'm a bit obsessed now. I do love it. I have, yeah, a bit obsessive practices and
downpour, but I was just loving it.
Well, Abby, okay, so that's a really good example of finding the positive. So I, like I said, I used to live in South France. I absolutely love the sunshine, and that is really my, you know, I find it difficult that I'm back here and it's so grey, and, you know, British winter is difficult, but British summer is the bit that I really struggle with because we have so much rain and all the rest of it. But because I have a garden now, every time it rains, I get to be like, let's water the garden. So there's that really completely lovely silver lining to that I'm like, okay, I might be not getting to enjoy being out there in it, but the garden is really happy.
What about your children? Are they how are they keeping sane and active?
He has made a big difference for them. I mean, they've been very good at, they stayed in, I mean, they were so good with the homeschooling. They were amazing. They just kind of got on with it. And I'm quite, I think, like a lot of people as well, because they only had each other, it was good for their relationship. They played more together than they had before. And like I say, my daughter, whose room I'm in, because she's the one who's much more set up for Zoom calls and chats and all that, she's been really into staying in touch with her friends on this kind of thing. And but actually I think the going out into the countryside, doing our walks every day with the dogs, and but having the new puppy obviously was quite a lovely distraction, let's say, for them, because it was definitely, you know, it's a big change for them. But interesting as well, I think, you know, working in a school and seeing a lot of children and how they're reacting, I think the thing that's really amazing about small children is they are so accepting of anything that is going on around them, because they live so much in the moment. They just adapt, and they just are like, okay, this is how it is now, just get on with it. Whereas I think grown-ups have way more tendency to stress about, things could be different, or how, you know, what's coming next, or how does this compare to what used to be. We do a lot of not being in the moment, Whereas kids, because they're so much more in the present, especially little ones, because I work in primary, they're so good at just actually getting on with what's in front of them, that actually, they've been brilliant. They haven't complained at all. And I haven't seen any children who've complained about the situation. I've seen kids who have really missed their friends, and I get to see when they're all finding each other again and they're really happy, but they seem to have done really well, like brilliantly, I think.
Oh no, definitely. And I think particularly with some of my friends, being present is something that they've never really even and this, again, it's forced them to do that. And actually, it's okay not to have plans every weekend. And
that was easy for me because I'm really antisocial, so I never had any plans anyway. So my lockdown life and my normal life don't look that different. So that's a positive. That was quite easy. I do feel sorry for people who are super sociable and always have big gatherings and going out to pubs and meeting friends and all that, because that must be really difficult. But luckily I have no friends, so maybe I have a few, but it's definitely, that is a bigger change, right? I think I always think that it must be really hard to be sort of university age, because that's when you're really busy, super socializing all the time, and that must have been really difficult for a lot of people.
And if again, you were saying finding the silver lining, lots of my friends, one of my friends was due to get married next weekend, and that's phone, but she's been amazing. I don't think I would have been as accepting as she's been, but she's moved it a whole year. Her cousin is getting married 2 weeks before, and they've actually, she's saying that all of her family in Australia can come over and have one big and I was like, wow, you were doing much better at this than I could have ever done.
It's impressive, right? So my cousin was supposed to be getting married. We were all supposed to be going this summer to the south of France to see my cousin get married, and I felt the same thing. I was so heartbroken for him, thinking, oh, this is really awful. But actually, I think because this is a huge global pandemic, scary stuff is happening, everybody's really conscious that there are a lot worse things out there, and there are people who are having a really, really horrible time losing loved ones, the people on the front line working so hard and seeing really scary stuff. And I think therefore people have been amazing about that kind of disruption, which is huge. That's a really, really big deal. Your wedding day getting cancelled is awful, but I think a lot of people have been really amazing about thinking, well, okay, no, in comparison to losing a loved one, I feel okay about this change happening in my life. So
it's perspective, and people have been able no, really interesting. So one of the questions I've been asking the guests that come on is, again, this has given everyone a time to look into new books, new podcasts, Netflix documentaries, films, lots of different things. Has there been anything that you have discovered or rediscovered during the time at home that you'd recommend for some of the listeners?
Well, I'm an obsessive reader anyway, so I definitely have read lots of books, although obviously you ask me that question and my mind goes completely blank. Netflix documentaries, I did totally watch Tiger King. It was amazing. And
We love Tiger King.
And I read quite a lot of children's books to recommend stuff for the kids and that kind of thing, so that's been good to have some time to look into that kind of thing and find things for my kids too. And I'm quite into craft as well, so I've been crocheting like a little old lady, and that kind of thing. So no, I've loved that. I have quite a lot of that kind of stuff anyway, so
see. You got anything nearby that we can see in terms of your crafts that you've done?
Well, actually, if I turn that way, that I made this when Mimi was little. That's just a little hanging thing with a load of little birds. There's a few things in here probably. I wonder if there's something I made for her. Oh, I made this. This was a while ago though. This is a blankie, rainbow blankie. So there's a few things. There's stuff everywhere. I'm always making.
There's been so much that people. I spoke to somebody for Positivity last week, and they've just they're making jumpers. They've been. It's just so exciting. Everyone's going to be self-sufficient when we return to normal.
Actually, one thing, self-sufficiency, I'm not getting near growing food. I can't do that. My husband was really excited when we first moved in here that we were going to have a big vegetable garden and stuff, but I can't get on board with growing food. It's just too much effort for me. I like the kind of craft where you have to make a big mess and then make something really stupid that you don't need at the end of it. And a thing that's too practical or useful, I'm not on board.
There as soon as you finish, whereas with growing vegetables, I find I want the tomato now.
Yeah. Also maybe because I kind of I ought to have got into baking. That's the big thing loads of people have got into, haven't they? And I love cake. Full disclosure, I had to eat a biscuit before having my cup of tea because I can't have a cup of tea without something sugary with it, because I don't take sugar in tea. I totally should, because I just end up having cake and biscuits the whole time. But I suck at baking. I can't do it. I hate following instructions. So I haven't, that hasn't been part of our lockdown thing. We haven't been doing loads of baking.
No, that's right. And what's your biscuit of choice that you usually go for with a cuppa?
Anything with chocolate. I'm not fussy. If there's chocolate involved, I'm happy.
Yeah, that's been a godsend during lockdown.
Right. And I kind of like as well the fact that, you know, we now have an excuse maybe for things like, oh, you know, this is a big scary thing happening. I just need to eat some chocolate right now.
No excuse needed, in my opinion, if you want chocolate.
Well, yes, exactly.
Oh, well, thank you so much for chatting to us today. It's just
such a pleasure
to be able to share lots of stories with you, and to hear such positive energy. I think that people really, really need in this time, that everybody can relate to. So thank you. But my final question for you is, who would you like to nominate to come on another episode of Positivity?
So I knew this was coming, and I had to think about it, and I feel really lucky actually, because I had quite a few different people that I could choose between, but I would like to nominate my friend Katrina Wilson, because she is somebody whose positivity has saved me on a few occasions. So she was my next door neighbor when my babies were little. And she's one of these people who, she is such a problem solver. She's amazing. And any time that things were not working out for me, she was there, and she was going to make it better. And she is just an absolute ray of sunlight. She really is. So yeah, she's my choice.
Oh, we can't wait to speak to her. Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. And we hope to be able to meet face to face when.
Oh, that would be so fun. You could have like a positivity party.
Exactly.
Good idea. Lovely to meet you, Alex. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much.
Bye.